It was crazy, and my life has never really kind of been the same since.
That is an amazing, amazing story, mate. And like you pointed out, it couldn't have got scripted any better.
It could not have been scripted any. But well, look, one thing could have changed.
Yes.
Just one thing could have changed.
Yeah. Welcome to M26 Fit, the podcast that powers your spirit, mind, and body. I'm the host, Magnus Olsen. The next guest is a man who defies gravity, not just in sport, but in life. Ji Wallace is an Olympic silver medalist, a world champion, and Cirque du Soleil acrobat. He soared to fame in Sydney 2000 as Australia's first ever Olympic gymnast medalist. Ji's ability to reinvent himself through injury and adversity has inspired people across the planet. Today he coaches the next generation, lives with purpose, and shows us that resilience isn't about avoiding the fall, it's about how you bounce back. Ji Wallace, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And let me tell you, there has been plenty of bouncing back.
I look forward to getting into that, mate. What's good for you at the moment?
Oh, mate, I am full as a goog. I'm so busy just with getting out there, making sure the next generation of athletes are ready for the next competition. And obviously we've got big dreams and big goals for the future, but it's about the little things, right? So making sure that we're getting the little things right, the daily things right, the local competitions, and of course the big national competitions.
All right, mate, take us back to the beginning. Where did you grow up and how and what first got you into trampolining?
I'm actually a Western Victorian born, but bred in Logan. I grew up in Woodridge in Kingston, so that is where I call home. Well, not now, but that's where I certainly grew up, and that was where my trampolining career started, literally in the backyard. I went from the backyard in Woodridge to really the backyard in Sydney, so we didn't go too far to make those dreams come true, but it all started back in Woodridge with my trampoline. My parents bought me a trampoline, as most parents did in the 80s. And I think I was a bit crazy because by the second day or third day, I was jumping off the roof of the second-story house. So my mum went, "This boy is nuts. Let's take him up to the local PCYC with the other neighbourhood kids." And it kind of all went from there.
Okay. I talk a lot about spirit, mind, body in that order specifically, and in particular being led by purpose. And being aligned, I guess, to who you truly are. Is that something that concept that you can relate to personally?
Back then, all I wanted to do was go to the Olympics. My mum said I saw the Olympic Games on TV when I was 3. So that's the Moscow Olympics. Yep. And I remember the dancing bear, and I remember the placards and the music, and I remember some of the gymnastics and some of the swimming. I can't really put anything down in particular that I saw, but I just remember seeing the games, and Mum said I was enamored ever since then. And who knew that I was actually going to grow up to be an Olympian, because my sport that I chose, trampoline, wasn't actually an Olympic sport until Sydney got the gig. Until 1993, Sydney got the gig, until 1997, 1998, before gymnastics took on trampoline. So nobody ever knew that I was actually going to make it, but I did. There was something within me. There was something within my spirit that always drove me to stay in that sport, because one day it was going to go to the Olympics.
So how old were you when your parents first bought you that trampoline?
I think they bought it for me when I was 8. 7 or 8. And again, all the neighbourhood kids had trampolines, so we were just jumping up and down on the backyard. I was teaching myself flips before any of them could land on their tummy or land on their back. Most of them were falling off. I was falling off. I had the dog and the cat on the trampoline. Sometimes there was no springs on the trampoline. You'd go through those. I used to jump on the trampoline, jump to the Hills hoist, the washing machine, the clothesline, and I used to go swinging around the clothesline and jump back onto the trampoline, or get the neighbourhood kids to throw the tree swing at me, and I'd jump off the trampoline, jump onto the tree swing through the trees, and then swing back and jump back onto the trampoline, try and get back to the house. I was doing some crazy stuff before Mum ever took me up to make sure that I was learning how to control myself on the trampoline.
So 8 years old, you've got a trampoline, bouncing around, clearly crazy, probably an ADHD boy, similar to my good self. And I think that activity probably masked a little bit and why you weren't prescribed a drug like some kids do nowadays. Was there a particular moment through that time? Like, did you actually get into gymnastics, or what did the pathway look like for you?
I've never touched a bar or a ring or a beam in my life. It's always been just trampoline. As I said, trampoline wasn't part of the gymnastics family until 1997, 1998. So it was all just about trampoline. I got to go up to the local gym, the Logan PCYC, with my mates, with my local mates, jumping around. And one of the coaches said, he's pretty good. I was hanging out with all the girls, who knew back then, but I was just hanging out with all the girls. I think they used to call me cute and cuddly up there because I've never been a huge person. So, and I just happened to be really good at it. And when you're really good at something, especially at a young age, you tend to gravitate to want to do it more. So I think that's what kept me involved in the sport. Because let me tell you, I've made no money out of gymnastics or trampoline because generally in Australia, athletes don't make that much money.
What about... I was just thinking about the different pathways because you're obviously bouncing around a trampoline. You didn't get into the gymnastics, I guess, pathway. So how did you actually get to improve? Did you end up with a coach, or how did you get to that 8-year-old boy bouncing on the trampoline to representing Australia at the Olympics?
So back then at the PCYCs, and probably still today, there's lots of junior programs out there, taekwondo, judo, gymnastics, squash, trampoline, all of those programs that were provided at the local PCYCs. And that's where I started. And there was a trampoline program there that we just all went up to, I think maybe twice a week. And as I said, I was teaching myself flips and crazy things at home. And because I was already doing them, the local coach said, oh, he's pretty good. Let's teach him some more stuff. And I went to the state championships. And I think the national coach at the time, she was Melanie Tonks. She was at the Wynnum PCYC, which was Bayside now, or Lota. And she came over to my parents and she said, how about he come over and jump with me, because I reckon he's got some talent. He could go far. And my parents decided that that was a pretty cool option. And they decided that back then I think it was 40 kilometres one way. The Gateway Motorway wasn't even there, so it was through the back streets. And my parents took me over there, and within a year, I was representing Australia and New Zealand at Trans-Tasman.
Yep. So as far as the competition goes, is there an under 12, under 14, or what's that look like as a younger kid to be able to represent Australia or represent at those championships?
So back then it was sub-junior, junior and senior. That was just really it. So if you fell into that sub-junior category, which I did, that's where you competed. But the thing that I really loved about trampoline was just watching the guys that were older than me do the big fun stuff. And that's what I wanted to do. So I was pretty good as a sub-junior. And then once I got into the junior ranks, I was already competing against the senior guys. And then once I sort of got to the end of that junior ranks, I was already beating the senior guys and taking on the world.
So representing Australia at the Sydney 2000 Olympics, just talk through that experience for me.
Well, as I said, you don't really do trampoline to make money. You don't do it because there's sponsorship opportunities out there. You do it because you wanted to go to the Olympic Games, and that's all I wanted to do. So here is this opportunity in 1998 to actually chase down an Olympic spot. We had 2 years to go. Gymnastics Australia brought in a Russian coach, Nikolai Zhuravlev, who was responsible for world champions, world record holders. He was very well known within the trampoline world, and the fact that he was brought into Australia was a real coup at the time. And there was 5 of us in the Olympic training squad, and 3 of them were in Melbourne. One was in Gosford near Sydney, and I was up here. And I actually made the calculation, went, that means out of 5 weeks, I'm only going to get Nikolai 1 week. So I actually made the decision to travel to move to Gosford. So then there would be 2 people. So at least I'd get him for 2 weeks out of the 5. Yep. And until the World Championships, the qualifying event, the singular qualifying event, because they really didn't know how to do a qualifying event back then because we'd never been to the Olympic Games. How do we do this? So they brought it down to one event and one event only. So either you were in or you were out. You were hot or you were not. You either made it or you didn't. It was one, and it was a named position too. So everybody that qualified at the World Championships in 1999 in South Africa was named. So that I think that was October or November the year before. So we were actually one of the first Olympians named in the Olympic team for Sydney. I came 5th at those World Championships, and that was probably the best result Australia has ever had at that high calibre competition level.
Because Australia's not really renowned for their prowess in the gymnastics world, are they?
We've done some really good stuff, but in gymnastics, we've never really broken through into that world championship medal dais, world leading kind of arena. They've always been super close and we've done really, really well. But fingers crossed that changes heading into Brisbane 32. That's going to be the goal. But back then it was, trampoline has a really great history of producing world champions in double mini trampoline. So we had two-time reigning double mini trampoline champion in Adrian Wareham. That was 88 and 90. There were the girls, Liz Jensen and Lisa Newman-Morris. They were world champions. So we'd done really, really well. But nobody had quite broken into the trampoline event. I was world champion on double mini in 1996, set a world record in 1998. That was my last competition. Headed to the World Championships in 1999, got 5th place, qualified 4th in the Olympic structure. So I was going to be an Olympian.
Well done.
It was going to be amazing. I could have sat on my laurels. I could have really sat back and gone, I'm going to the Olympics. I'm just going to have a good time. But nah, if I had waited from when I was 3 to be an Olympian, here was the opportunity to chase down gold. We were training for gold. When you go to the Olympic Games, if you're not chasing down gold, you're not doing the Olympics right. So for a whole year, it was the hardest slog I've ever had to do. It was insane. But
what did the training regime look like for you leading up to the Olympics?
So going from being in the backyard here in Brisbane, training 3 times a week for a couple of hours. I mean, we trained hard, we thought. You know, we'd done quite well. We'd been successful. We'd gone to world championships before, made world champion in double mini. So training 3 times a week seemed to be enough for us. But of course, when Nikolai came on board, we went from 3 sessions a week to 10 sessions a week. So that was really difficult to take on board, especially being a 21-year-old who has done quite well up until now. And here we've got this Russian coach telling you what you can do, what you can eat, what you need to stretch, when you need to sleep, all of those sort of things. So that was a pretty crazy change. It really took us all by surprise because we'd never done that before. We'd never experienced that in the trampoline world. But here's this Russian coach who's got all the expertise that we can handle, telling us all these new things that we needed to do. And the 5 of us really struggled, but we really pulled together. But in the end, there was only 2 of us left standing. Myself and Robin Forbes, another Queenslander who went to the Games, who got named in that position. So because I'd come 5th or 4th in the Olympic roster, Nikolai actually moved to Gosford. So I had him full time. So Robin moved to Gosford as well. The other girl that was training there, she was the backup. She was training just in case Robin couldn't make the Olympic Games. We always have that.
So is there a male-female element?
Yes.
Yes.
So, so one male, one female.
Yes, correct. So there was 2 male Aussies and then 1 female Aussie as a backup in case one of you guys got injured?
No, there was 1 male, 1 female name, one male, 1 female name. So myself and Robin Forbes, and each of us had somebody that was training alongside us just in case we couldn't go to the Olympic Games because Australia got a representative.
Yep.
So it didn't matter who it was, but if you were named, it was going to be you no matter what, unless you couldn't actually get on the physically get on the trampoline. There would be an Australian that would be there. So that's the way it was panned out. That's the way it was planned. So Nikolai was in Gosford coaching us 10 times a week, doing his Russian thing. It was, as I said, it was tough. It was really, really tough work. Again, I wasn't used to it. I was just a knockabout kid from Kingston, just going to the Olympic Games, following this plan that the Russian coach had dealt us. But guess what? I was tougher than that. I took it all on board. I made sure it worked for me. And on the day at the Olympic Games, in front of 14,500 screaming Australians, 14,000 of them had no idea what trampoline was about, had no idea who I was, but they were there because A, it was the Olympic Games, and B, they didn't get swimming or athletics in the ballot. They got trampoline and gymnastics, and they went, oh, well, may as well go. Who knows what it's going to be like? And I used to get stopped for years after in the street going, oh, you're that trampoline guy, aren't you? I was at that event and it was one of the nights of my life. And I used to say to them, it was one of the nights of your life. Could you imagine what it was like being on the floor? It was a surreal moment. It couldn't have played out any better. In the eliminations, everybody gets to do 2 routines. And the way it panned out, the results after the eliminations was exactly the way it was at the World Championships the year before. I was sitting in 4th place. So in trampoline, back then, you used to go in reverse order. So 8th went 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, it was my turn. Again, the crowd was crazy. And in the eliminations, I wore a green leotard, pretty boring green leotard. And I was the only athlete that actually went away, did a costume change, and came back in a completely different outfit where it was bright yellow. Because I thought, why not? I've got to make a stand here. Did my routine that I'd never done before. It was crazy. The crowd went nuts. I was going nuts. But in reality, there was still the 3 athletes to come after me. World Cup champion, the current world champion, and the 1996 world champion. So champion after champion after champion was to come after me. So the way I responded in that moment was just absolute pure joy, pure elation, and pure relief, all piled on top of each other. But then the next athlete came up and his score came up underneath mine. So all of a sudden, this little Aussie battler who's in this bright yellow outfit, who nobody has any clue about, nobody in the crowd has any idea about trampoline, is sitting in the gold medal position, and there's only 2 other athletes to come, so he's going to get a medal. And then the next athlete came up, and there was there was no controversy, but the crowd wouldn't have understood what was going on, but because he did a great routine. But in trampoline, you're not allowed to repeat skills, and he repeated a skill in his great routine. So, of course, the judges have to go away. They have to reassess everything. It's taking a long time. It's building and building. People are getting antsy. There's no score coming up. Everybody's waiting to see what had happened. I didn't really understand what was happening because I really wasn't watching his routine. I was just too busy waving to the crowd, trying to find my parents, trying to find people I knew. And then his score came up, and it was underneath mine. So I'm in the gold medal position with 1 person to go. You couldn't have written a better script.
Do you remember how you felt at that moment?
I was shit my pants because all of a sudden I could be a gold medalist at the Olympic Games, at trampoline's debut at an Olympic Games, at my first Olympic Games in Australia. Again, you could not have written a better script. So then he got up onto the trampoline. He's Mr. Trampoline, 5-time reigning world champion. It was kind of like being beaten by Ian Thorpe. You know, he did the cleanest routine. It was so awesome.
What nationality was he?
Russian.
Russian.
I know. I wish he was Russian. I wish he was Russian through his routine. He fell off or something. But no, he was Mr. Trampoline. Again, it's like being beaten by Ian Thorpe. It was just a class act above everybody else. So to come second to him at the Olympic Games, to make such a spectacular debut, it actually makes the top 10 moments of the Olympic Games often. At the time, I think it was the top 20, top 25 moments of the Olympic Games in all the magazines. It was crazy, and my life has never really kind of been the same since.
That is an amazing, amazing story, mate. And that is so well done. And like you pointed out, it couldn't have got scripted any better.
It could not have been scripted but well, one thing could have changed. Yes. Just one thing could have changed.
Yeah. And you were at that Games with a bunch of big names as well. I think that was the Games where Nat Cook, she won gold.
Yeah, they did. Yep.
Yep.
Nat and Kerry. Yep.
Yep. Amazing, amazing.
Yep.
And then you went off and joined the circus. What happened there? What triggered that decision, and why didn't you continue on?
A few things happened between then. So I wanted, after the Olympic Games, let me tell you, if you were an Olympic medalist, you got to do all of the ticker tape parades around the country. So, of course, all the Olympic medalists did as many as we could. By the end of it, we were just so exhausted. But after the last ticket tape parade in Canberra, we flew back to Sydney. I jumped in an Uber, jumped in a cab, got home, opened the door to ticket tape parade, and everybody there going, nobody was home. The grass had grown and nobody had been to mow the grass. I think there was still dishes in the sink. I don't think my bed was made. I went, what's going on? Life's changed. Why hasn't my house changed? Why is this still the party? The party should continue. Surely it continues. But yeah, that was a big reality check. And my coach wanted me to go, the Russian coach, he wanted to go to Europe to make some money, doing shows and things like that. And I just wanted a break. I just needed a break. So he said, come back in at the beginning of January. So I went and found a job, did some work. Went back in January. He was still cranky with me. Said, come back in July. I went, I can't wait to come back in July. So I started uni, and then that wasn't for me. And at the games, I actually said in an interview, I would love to do aerial skiing, because all they're doing is skiing down a hill, doing what I do on a trampoline when they get kicked off the ramp and landing on so short. How hard could that be? So I thought, I'll give that a go. So I tried that for a little while. I got told by the Skiing Australia to come back and come back and talk to us when you can teach yourself how to ski. And I went, I'm coming to you to teach me how to ski. If you teach me how to ski, I'll teach you how to flip. Because back then they were flipping the way we used to somersault and flip decades ago. So I could teach them some new techniques and some new skills. So I went away, taught myself to ski, spent all my money around the world chasing the snow, had a great time. But by the time I could ski well enough, they actually sat me down in their offices in Melbourne and said, well, we're not prepared to support a boys program. They jump too high, they jump too hard, and it's easier to support a girls program because we've got pretty good success rate so far, and we'll continue to support the girls program. So that was a big slap in the face. And then I went, what do I do after that? What am I going to do after that? So watching the Athens Games in 2004, my score in Sydney would have won silver again. And I went, the last 4 years, what have I been doing? So I rang my coach and I said, hey, I'd like to come back to tramp. I'd like to do that again. And he goes, we're all moving to Adelaide. If you want to move to Adelaide, there's a place in the program for you. So I went to Adelaide, moved to Adelaide, and for the next 3 years did trampoline again, but the sport had moved on. Obviously, when you go to the Olympic Games, it's kind of the beginning of evolution. And that evolution had moved quite rapidly through the sport, and I failed to qualify for Beijing. So then again, there was another moment of, what do I do with my life? And that World Championships in 2007 was in Quebec City in Canada. And that's just up the road from Montreal, the home of Cirque du Soleil. And it's a well-trodden path for gymnasts to go through and do Cirque du Soleil. If you go to a Cirque du Soleil show, generally you're watching a gymnastics training session, because most of those people in there have come from some sort of gymnastic background. The acrobats, the artists. There's lots of dancers in there now, but they've done some sort of gymnastics generally as well. And one of the talent scouts came over to me the next day after I hadn't slept all night, wondering, what am I going to do with my life? And she said, look, I've got a position in a show for you. You don't need to audition. You don't need to do anything. If you want to go home, get yourself together, then come back to Montreal for training, and we'll integrate you into this new show that we're producing that's going to go to Macau next to Hong Kong. And I went, perfect. So I was home for about a week, packed up all my stuff, went back to Montreal and ran away to the circus, joined the circus.
So what does that entail? So you when you've gone from being trampolining, then you obviously had a crack at skiing, aerial skiing, which didn't play out for you, back into trampolining. But was there a particular act that you were given at the circus?
Well, it's a rebounding act. So on the trampoline and teeter boards, in the seesaw that you jump on, you sit on in the park,
Yep.
but we jump on them in the circus and you do flips and things like that. There was a new type of teeter board where it was called X-board. It was across, so it was 4 of them rather than just 2 of them, and you jump onto trampolines and wall trampolines and things like that. So that was what the act was. Obviously it was perfect for my skill set because I'd been jumping on trampolines all my life. All I had to do was learn how to jump on that wood and jump on other trampolines, put a bit of makeup on, and Bob's your uncle. I thought that was going to be it.
Did you enjoy that element, and how long did you do it for?
I loved it. It was great. And it was really fun to be around other acrobats or trampolinists that I'd known for years and years and years. So it was almost like joining a family. And then we moved to Macau to put the show together, to open the show. And within 10 weeks, I'd crashed on the wood, because the wood is very unforgiving on the teeter board. And basically what happened is that I was in the air and I was coming down incorrectly. And of course, with the music, everything, the other person on the other end of the board didn't hear me properly, so they didn't jump at the right time. And because I pushed as hard as I could to make sure they jumped and got their kick that they needed to produce their move, all that pressure just went straight through my ankle. So I just bounced off the back of the board, and I knew something was wrong straight away because I was on my bum Saturday night. last act, full house, landed on my bum. And I looked down at my foot, and my foot was looking a bit weird. So I just turned around and tried to get myself off the back of the stage like a dog with worms. Just got legs in the air trying to get it. And the next image is when everybody else sort of runs up the stage, and then they had to jump over the top of me to get onto the stage to keep the act going. And I remember looking at one of the physios, and they were already running down the back stairs, Baywatch style, with the boards coming to see if I was all right. And then they took me to the local hospital in Macau, and the doctors there looked at it and went, yeah, I think there's a break there somewhere. And the physio took the x-ray off him and goes, I can see that there's a break there, you fool. Of course there is. There's probably a couple. So she sent it to one of the specialists in Hong Kong, and he goes, yeah, there's a couple of breaks there. Send him over on Monday, and we'll have a look. So I was in one of those dummy casts for the weekend. And that was a fun weekend because I was in a dummy cast. I had all the pain relief that I needed. Went to the hospital in Hong Kong on the Monday. Did an MRI, and he goes, yeah. Look, there's a break there. There's a couple of breaks there. What we can do is we can physio it out for you for 6 weeks, take the cast off, and then we'll see what it's like for you. And then if we need to, we can operate, or you can get back into the show. Or we can operate now, and then you'll be fine to get back into the show as quickly as possible. And I went, well, why would I wait 6 weeks? You might as well operate now. So the next day I had an operation on my foot. And I remember waking up with my foot in a cast, all this bandage around, there's blood everywhere on the bed. And the doctor was, because I was still under anaesthetic, right? The doctor was at the other end, and he turned around and he looked like a Muppet. He just had this big nose and big ears at me. And he goes, it's okay. We're going to get you to walk again. And I went, what do you mean? And my physio that was standing there next to me, she was in tears, and I'd broken 4 bones in my foot. I'd snapped 7, I'd removed 7 pieces of cartilage from those bone surfaces. I'd snapped all the ligaments through my foot, and he goes, you're probably never going to go back to the show, but we'll get you to walk. So I thought, what am I going to do now? Goodness.
So how old were you then?
Oof. That was 2009, 2010.
So early 20s.
Yeah, that's right, early 20s. So that took me 18 months to learn how to do all that and to walk without any sort of pain. It's all fused now, so I was never going to go back to the show.
Was that your most significant injury or setback that you'd had?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the one that changed my career trajectory and what I wanted to do and what I was really able to do.
So what did that, I've been fortunate to speak to a lot of athletes, and even from a personal sense, that has a huge impact. Like, you've gone from being as active as you were, clearly very, very enjoying being very, very, very busy and competing, and having all that stripped away and then going through a significant injury rehabilitation. How was that time for you, both physically and mentally?
Well, because I was in Macau, I was lucky enough that the roommate or the place that I moved into, we'd become best mates really, really, really quickly. So that was a really great home life that I had. But when I went to the physio, every day I went to physio. Every day for a year, I went to training. I went to Cirque du Soleil training. So obviously when you see the show, there's training that's going on all day. So whether it's changes in the shows that needed to happen, changes in your particular act that need to happen, every day I went to those because I wanted to get back into the show. After 1 year, the day after, I didn't go anymore. I just went to physio and I realised that I wasn't ever going to get back into the show because I wanted to know where I needed to go, what I needed to do, because I wanted to get back into the show and get back to doing what I love to do as quickly as possible.
Did Cirque du Soleil, were they very supportive through that injury process for you, and were assuming you're going to come back, or were you a little bit swept aside after you were injured?
No, the show, they were great. They wanted me back in the show. And when I could walk without pain, they said, just get back into the show, hold the lantern, put your costume on, put your makeup on, just hold the lantern and walk across the stage just to get back into, because we want you back in the show. So they were great in that way. Unfortunately, there's a few terms and conditions that you never really see in their injury program that says if you're...
The fine print?
Yeah, the fine print. If you can return back to work, then there's no sort of compensation payout or anything. But their work is not your show. Their work is working at McDonald's through the drive-through. You can return to that sort of work. then so that was a bit of a slap in the face with that. So that sort of ended that journey. I went back to Montreal and did some coaching over there, but it was never really the same.
So that was, you said that was a year. So how long did
18 months. So I spent a year going back to the show every day, going to training because I wanted to get back in the show. I wanted to know where I was going to be. Literally the day after, I understood that that was just never going to be possible, and I just needed to look after myself.
It took you another 6 months to...
Another 6 months to sort of walk without pain. And, you know, every time that they would do dry needling, it would piss with blood. So they said, that's not normal. That's, you know, that's not supposed to be happening. And that never stopped. So that's why there was a big red mark against my name, not able to return to a show.
Wow, that's the highs and lows of sport.
Literally.
What's exercise regime look like for you today?
Because I know what my ankle can and can't do, I'm not going to go out and run a marathon. And if I stand on my right foot, I literally tip over because there's no movement in my ankle to be able to edit myself to create that balance. I literally am like, you're chopping a tree down, I just timber over. So that's quite funny to get used to.
So what can you do then?
Oh, I can do most things. I can run. I can do most things. I can push. I can do all of that. I can weight bear, everything like that. It's just I know what my limits are. I know what those limits are.
Yep.
I like finding out what pushing those limits feels like at the moment too.
And what does those limits feel like?
Who knows? I haven't got there yet. I'm still figuring out what my limits are because I understand what pushing the boundaries feels like. So I'm quite happy to go through sore patches and challenges within your brain, but also within your body. Yep. I don't mind those challenges because that's how you push yourself. That's how you know that you can be better. That's how you know that you have the resilience to take on anything that life's prepared to throw at you. And the last year of my life, everything has been thrown at me. So I think up until a year ago, everything that I've been through had been preparing me for the last year and a half.
Yeah. What's happened in the last year and a half?
Oh, goodness. How much time do we have? So there was a relationship breakdown. And then the lead athlete that we had leading into the Olympic Games, he fell and broke his neck. So he wasn't able to go to the Olympic Games and achieve his goal. He's fine now, but he missed out on going to the Olympic Games. He did all the hard work and all the hard training to get Australia a spot, but never actually was able to claim that spot. So that still resonates with me. That still affects me. And then in May, something else happened in May. Then in June, one of the other athletes landed on his head at a time. And that was with me directly coaching him. And obviously that was very scary on top of knowing that Blake had just hurt himself. So there was a few disappointments there. Then my car got stolen and had to try and start to sell the house. And then last May, I hurt myself at the gym, hurt my shoulder at the gym. And of course, being the person that just keeps pushing on through, it was a little bit sore. And I went, it's okay, no problem, just keep pushing on through. But I'd actually torn all my rotator cuffs. I torn them off the bone. So I had to have shoulder reconstruction in October. And then in the November, then that's when my car got stolen. Then in the November, because I was at home by myself thinking about all the things that had happened through the year. Oh, I got COVID and flu A and flu B all at the same time. So that was fun during the Olympic Games, during Paris. So all I was doing, I love the Olympic Games. So all I was doing was watching the Olympic Games on my friend's couch going, yay.
I can actually completely relate to that because I just had a flashback. I was in New Zealand at an ice hockey tournament and ended up with pneumonia. And that just put me in an extremely poor state where they wouldn't take me to the hospital. The ambulance came and they said, we've had an influenza A breakout at the hospital and in your state, you'll catch that as well. So we just suggest that you just stay here, stay in the hotel. Can anybody look after you? I said, no. My wife ended up flying over to look after me 5 days later. But I was so sick that ordinarily you'd think, great, the Olympics are on. I could sit back and watch it. But I literally just sat there on the couch, eyes open for 10 minutes, fell asleep for an hour, eyes open for 10 minutes. So
same.
Vividly remember. So we're going through the same thing on different parts of the planet.
Same. So then in the November, I think it was about 10 days after my shoulder surgery. I was at home, still cooked on drugs because everything was hurting. I was in a sling, so I couldn't really move, lying on the couch, just moaning and groaning about the year that had happened and everything.
So you
poor
had
me,
all this
poor
influenza and stuff whilst you
All of
undergoing your shoulder
No,
rehabilitation.
that was in August. So shoulder was in October.
Yeah. So what you said, you're in a sling?
Yeah, after my shoulder surgery.
Yes.
Yeah, so that they said that I could be in a sling for up to 10 weeks. And of course I'm going, what do you mean a sling for 10 weeks? Can't you just fix it and within a week I'm back at work? Surely. And they went, no, just look after yourself, calm down. So I was lying on the couch, had painkillers, and then I was living, my house was a Queenslander, had 10-foot ceilings, and the smoke detectors went off. I don't know why, but I was just lying on the couch. And of course, when the smoke detectors go off in your house, you jump up. You don't know what's going on. So I was half asleep, in pain, half rolled over, landed on my shoulder, on my elbow, which punched through the shoulder surgery. So then when I went back to the surgeon 6 weeks later, he goes, what have you done? I didn't do this to your shoulder. And I went, and told him that story. And he goes, I'm going to have to redo it. So I had to have my shoulder surgery redone in the December on top of... Last year. On top of having to move out of my house because we were trying to Airbnb it because I was going to be home for 4 weeks, but then I was home for nearly 4 months. So that was a nightmare. My car got stolen. Then in March this year, everything was starting to work again. I was starting to get back on top of my life. And then on a work trip, I came down with stomach pains and it was hurting all day. And I thought I was still on this work trip, so I had to keep going, had to keep pushing, of course. Don't worry about the pain, you just keep going. I was driving up the Toowoomba range. I reckon I must have looked like a drunk driver because I was all over the road. I couldn't see properly because of the pain. Got to the top of the range and I could just, it was cold and wet and awful. So the condensation was on the inside of the glass of the car. So I was just making sure that I could see out of it just to see where I was going, trying to find the hotel, got to the top of the range, saw the hospital sign. And I thought, I'm in so much pain here. I'm just going to take myself to hospital. And it was like that Joker scene in Batman where he just gets out the car and leaves the car and the car explodes and walks away from it. I got to the hospital and just got out of the car. I don't remember taking the keys out of the car. I don't remember where I parked it. I don't remember anything. Walked into the emergency. The lady at reception goes, oh, you need our help, don't you? And I went, yes. Lied down on the trolley thing, vomited like I've never vomited before, started convulsing and passed out. So all I can remember is the emergency warning sirens and lights going off and people were talking all around me. When I came to, the lady said that they've given me enough morphine to kill an elephant. They did a CT scan and they said, you've just got a massive blockage in your stomach. Have to send you in for emergency stomach surgery now. So I'm in Toowoomba in this crazy amount of pain, just saying yes to emergency stomach surgery. And they shaved my stomach from my pubic line all the way through to the bottom of my chest. And they said, if we have to cut you that high and cut you that far to find out what the problem is and to find this problem and fix it, they said, we will, we'll have to. It could be all of the things that they ran through, everything that it could have been. Lucky enough that when they actually started the surgery, they found it pretty quickly, but they actually had to resect 20 centimetres of my stomach and repair my intestine, repair my bowel, repair my stomach. They said your stomach was starting to die. And if you had gone to the hotel that night, rather than going to the hospital, coming to the hospital with us, your stomach would have perforated and you wouldn't have woken up. So,
wow, you have been through the ringer. But they say that adversity that defines us, it builds resilience. So you must be pretty strong internally.
I'm
now.
very patient. I'm very, very patient. Obviously, with everything that's happened over the years, I'm just very patient because tomorrow's another day. As long as the sun comes up, then I've got another opportunity to take advantage of that and go for what I want.
Mate, I love it. You're an inspiration. So at the moment, you're into coaching, mentoring. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so obviously with Brisbane hosting the 2032 Olympic Games, I thought what better way to get back involved in my sport is to get back into coaching. So I've gone through all the coaching processes and I'm the high performance development coach for Queensland Gymnastics or Gymnastics Queensland. And we're looking at building an ironclad program here that allows us to produce champions that, fingers crossed, one of those athletes are able to take one step up from what I was able to achieve years ago, because I can't be the only one. I can't be the only Australian in 80 years of competing in gymnastics at the Olympic Games to have ever won a medal. So what I want to do is I want to help somebody achieve that. And as long as that's their goal, it can't be my goal because I've got those goals. Of course I want to do that with them, with them and for them. But as long as that's their goals, then I'll be behind them 100%.
And what's success look like for you today compared to what success looked like for you back when you were competing at Trampoline?
Well, world class is still success for me. Doing a little achievement, that's great, but that's doing a little achievement. I like the big things. Not necessarily the big whistles, but just the big achievements. If that's what you want to do, let's go for it. Let's change things. Let's lead by example. Let's be world leaders. Let's make a difference. But the fun part of coaching is to watch the little achievements that the athletes make along the way. That's really fun for me, especially when they're nervous about something and they build up enough courage to try something new. Where I used to jump off the two-story backyard, the house onto the trampoline. So I don't think kids do that these days. There's a lot of helicopter parenting and cotton wool kids out there, but allowing them the freedom to know that they can achieve just if they give it a go, that's pretty exciting as a coach.
That is fantastic. What about legacy? What does legacy mean for you? What would you like to be remembered for?
Well, at the moment, my legacy is being that one person that won an Olympic medal for gymnastics. And in gymnastics, there's actually 54 medals on offer every Olympic Games. So if we're not hunting down one of those medals as hard as we can, that would be my legacy, to see somebody else shine and to join me as being an Olympic medalist for gymnastics.
Well, that is absolutely awesome. Are there similar programs being run in the other states, or are you guys the pinnacle within Australia?
So Gymnastics Queensland produces a lot of Olympic level gymnasts. I think from the Paris Olympic Games, we had 7 of the 14 or 8 of the 14 Olympians. So a lot of Olympic level gymnasts come out of Queensland, which is very exciting to be involved with. And we've just had the last 2 Australians that have had gymnastics moves named after them, so that's pretty rare, have both been Queenslanders. So it's pretty exciting to see what the future holds. But of course, it is a struggle. Money is a really big issue for a lot of Australian athletes. Too many general population people out there think our athletes have it easy and have it good and are living a great life.
It's not true.
40% of Australia's athletes live below the poverty line.
Yeah.
Some of our athletes can't afford fuel in the car to get to training, let alone the expenses that come along with training, with competing, with traveling overseas. So it's pretty crazy that we pride ourselves on being such an amazing sporting nation when so many of our athletes are doing it hard and doing it tough, and we lose so many athletes.
Yep.
It always shocks me to think what the talent pool that we have could achieve if they had the right funding models behind them, if there was enough to keep them sustained and keep them going. And I can guarantee you, 99% of our athletes out there don't want to be millionaires. They just want to know that there's enough money in there that they can go to training when they need to. They can afford new spikes when they need to. They could potentially have their parents come to a competition and support them. That's all they're after. So the fact that there's a lady out there called Rachel Condo Fields who started the Wattle Nest, she's out there chasing down corporates, chasing down community, chasing down funds to help our athletes who are underfunded and in a lot of cases unfunded. So a lot of our future Olympians are just unfunded athletes, and they're doing it the way we used to do it, the hard way.
Yep.
With no money absolutely no money and potentially no prospects of making a fortune. There's a few out there that do quite well, but the majority of our athletes need our support. So that's something that I'm pretty passionate about, is because if there was somebody like Rachel and the Waddle Nest, and there's others out there that are doing very similar things, if there was somebody like that when I was competing, maybe I could have achieved that gold medal. Maybe that one thing that could have changed the script, maybe I could have done that. So that's why I got back into coaching, is because I want to help somebody chase that down. And if we can get enough funds out there, if we can provide these athletes with what they need, not what they want, but what they need to chase down their dreams and their goals, because guess what? When Brisbane 2032 comes around, we're going to be cheering them on, right? We're going to be proud of our Australian athletes. But what have we done to help them get there? Because the time for them to need our assistance is yesterday. They needed help yesterday. The government can't do everything. The QAS can't do everything. Those sporting bodies have enough on their plate. Can they do better and can they do different? That's a matter of opinion, but they can't do everything. So it really is up to the community and up to the corporates. They're going to take advantage of those moments in 2032 and beyond, because just like we're talking today, the nostalgia that big events at home, an Olympic, something that the Olympic Games can only produce Olympic type of feelings. So we need to get on board today.
100%. And I think that, Waddle Nest are doing an awesome job. I'm involved with the Gold Coast Academy of Sport, and I know they're a big supporter of those guys. And I think the corporates really need to get behind Aussie athletes, particularly leading up to 2032.
Yes, absolutely. And we understand that not everybody's going to make it. So not everybody that gets the support is going to make it, but that's what we need to do. That's not the risk, but that's the investment that we need to make.
That's the word, isn't it? Invest in our young athletes.
Invest in your health and invest in our future.
Yeah, well said, mate. Quick fire question time. You ready?
Go for it.
Favourite colour?
Yellow.
What worst advice you've ever received?
No.
Which experience do you enjoy the most? The circus or the Olympics?
The Olympics.
Your biggest fear right now?
Being alone.
Your greatest comeback moment?
Hasn't happened yet.
Favourite quote?
Just do it.
Most underrated trait to be a world-class athlete?
Resilience.
Pre-performance ritual?
Same underpants.
One word that defines you?
Resilient.
An athlete, sports person you admire the most?
I get this asked this often, and there's not one athlete or sports person that I like, because I know everybody's fallible. Everybody has failures. So there's not one person that I look towards, but that resilience and determination and discipline in people, that's what I really admire.
Last time you laughed so hard, your stomach hurt?
Every time I get on the phone with my best mate, who we've been best mates since high school. So we've known each other for 30 blah, blah, blah years now.
It's great medicine. Something people don't know about you?
I like blue as well.
The smartest person you've sat in a room with?
Define smart.
Yeah, I think that's debatable whether it's intelligence or street smart.
Yes.
If you could tell your 10-year-old self anything, what would you say?
Just do it.
Last question, mate. Finish this sentence, I believe.
I can fly.
And you certainly can, mate. Thank you very much. I so appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, mate. I love your energy. You are an absolute inspiration and a superstar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the M26 Fit podcast. Remember, real growth happens one step at a time, and consistently working both on your mind and your body for 26 minutes every day will change your life. Hit subscribe to keep the inspiration going, and don't forget to share this episode with somebody who needs that extra boost. Until next time, stay connected, stay active.